Over here is a typical window mounted in a wood-framed house. In this video I'll show you the components and what's involved in making a rough opening for a window. First off, the height of the window could be anywhere. Often the lintels, these horizontal pieces, flat pieces of wood on edge, usually are lined up, not always, whatever the architect calls for, or whether the window needs to open, so you need to reach it or not. That could be another factor. So the height of the window is issue number one. Components that are involved are studs. This one is a full-length stud, goes from the top plate all the way down to the bottom plate. Next to it is a trimmer, is a shorter stud. It supports this piece of wood here, which is the lintel. Usually there's two of these, that's why ×2 is written on it. So it's double this thickness. So full stud, trimmer, lintel, and between the trimmers usually there is a filler. This forms the upper portion of the frame. The trimmer forms the side of the frame. And there is a rough sill, a window sill, and a super short stud here that is a jack stud. The rough opening needs to be big enough for the window to fit and some gaps. The window should not be tight. In the rough opening there should be a gap evenly all around. Even gap. Okay, typically half an inch, 12 millimeters, something like that. The reason why you don't want the window to fit in super tightly is, one, you don't want to pound the window in place and crack the glass, and two, you don't want the window's expansion and shrinkage due to temperature changes and the wood's expansion and shrinkage interfere with each other and crack the window in another configuration in any case. So that's why there is always a gap. Okay? The window should not be mounted on pieces of sticks that are this long. Obviously this gets cut down, or better yet, windows are mounted on a black plastic or horseshoe shaped shim, usually at 2 points. This is just a piece of foam, it's not doing anything here. So at 2 points the window is supported. The window has to be level when you're done. I hope that makes sense in the opening. And so the thicknesses of the shims can be adjusted to make the window level. So even gap, supported at 2 points on incompressible horseshoe shims. And one other thing that is missing here, so that I can show the components here, is membranes that go around the opening here. That's completely missing. Usually there is some kind of resilient membrane covering these wood frame components to stop water from leaking in and wetting the windowsill and the trimmers, as well as the filler piece there. So the membranes are missing from here. Let's take a look at the other side. These short pieces of plywoods represent that this whole side of the building is sheathed. This is not quite sheathing grade or quality plywood, but this just represents the idea. The window's flange rests against the plywood, and of course this plywood is also covered with some kind of house wrap or some kind of membrane. It could be as simple as a tar paper in layers applied to the exterior of the building. But for just the structural mounting of the window involves the window's flange resting against the plywood and the window being nailed in with nails that are going to be found in these oval slots everywhere. So the correct way to nail a window in is to have these nails in the middle of the slots. I know it doesn't look like it's exactly in the middle, but the center of the nail is somewhere in the middle of this oval slot. The slot has an oval shape precisely for the thermal expansion and shrinkage of the window. And the nails should not be super tight. So it may be pinching the paper, but it's not deforming the plastic nailing flange on the window. So I can hook my nail, my hand nails or fingernails on this nail, and it is set in depth correctly. It's not over pounded into the wood. There's no need for that. The window needs to move vertically and horizontally as it expands and contracts, however tiny amounts. Okay, so it should be nailed in, it should be held. The nails should have a big head like this. Roofing nail would be ideal. So, and it is galvanized, so they should be resistant to corrosion, and they should have enough penetration, enough length in them to go through the plywood and into the, in this case, the rough sill that's underneath the window, as well as into the trimmers on this side and into the filler on the top side. Okay, so length, material, head type, and how it's nailed are all important considerations. So that's how a window is typically mounted. You need to check your local building code for additional details as to exactly how long nails are permissible or allowed, and what materials of nails, etc., are applicable in your area where you're building.